Hi, welcome back. We are back with another lovely project. I am Kate. I am your host, but also I am your interviewer again this time. And we are also here again with Ray, who is our other lovely interviewer. And we are here with, we've got a triple lovely going on because we've got Operation Silo. We've got the Operation Silo team. So, hi. Nice to talk to y'all. Welcome. Can you hear us?
Hello? Yeah. We need to talk louder.
Okay. So we're gonna talk to you about your. I was gonna say your funny bomb game, but like you probably shouldn't be out here calling a bomb funny.
It's not the most funny game.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not funny anymore.
So what was everyone's roles on this project, all of y'all?
So I was the producer, as well as I led like all of our testing stuff within the MQP.
I was the pretty much main artist, so majority 3D and UI assets.
I did the programming, so I just sort of put together, the way the character controls and pretty much how the level puts itself together.
And then we had Payton, Roche as another programmer working with Justin. They worked together really well as a team. And then we had Garet, who did all of our audio and narrative work.
Rad.
Sweet. Yeah, so what inspired you to make this game? And what were your kind of goals from the start?
Well, I think originally we had, so our project had started off as we wanted to put together really bare bones, just a room that was randomly generated, like a randomly generated level. I think actually even our MQP is called, like when you go into the portal, it's called
Endless MQP, so the whole idea is it was going to be more of a tech demo until we got more people involved, and then it became a game with like actual narrative and like audio and a lot of other stuff in it.
And to answer your question, Raymond, I think what we wanted to do really, like the goal we'd originally set out for was to sort of create like just a randomly generated level that a player could play through in about 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then would always have, if they go back and play again, they would have another unique experience, just to kind of, have that.
Add a level of replay.
Replayability was something that I absolutely wanted to focus on because, not many people want to buy a game if they only play it once.
Yeah,
Totally get that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when it came to like designing this sort of thing, like the gameplay, the replayability, what were some of your inspirations?
So I mean, we looked at a lot of other kind of escape room type spaces, whether that be virtual, where it's like the game escape simulator, or real life escape rooms.
It actually started when Morgan, myself, and a couple of our other friends went to a real escape room in Worcester. I don't know what it's called, so I'm not going to plug them, but that was a bomb-themed escape room.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so you can. I guess we should thank them. I knew their name.
Cool. Yeah, and I thought the environments looked very cool. What were some of your inspirations for the environment art? I know the Soviet or like Russian architecture was a big inspiration, but was there anything specifically?
So we had begun going down the path of thinking of, Soviet era, like brutalist architecture. So I worked with Justin for a bit, trying to get the modular environment set up. As we had the random generation, it was really important to have a very modular asset list. And then besides that, I took a lot of inspiration from kind of PlayStation 1 games like Metal Gear. Our original plan actually was to have a shader that would emulate to look like our game was in the PlayStation 1 era. But due to time constraints, we couldn't quite get that far. But definitely looking at a lot of like PlayStation 1 games, Fallout, and just actual images from Missile Silence.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely came through. Now, so I have a question for you because I am a designer and I am curious as to what your methodology for designing the puzzles was because especially when you're working with procedural generation and all that, like puzzles are notoriously tricky. So I'm really curious as to what your methodology was for that.
So our methodology was we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. Yeah, a lot of inspiration from a lot of different puzzle games.
Yeah, I think, not to speak on behalf of the whole team, but I think really what we would have wanted to go for as a design goal was to have some like environmental puzzles that took place, so maybe like, parts of the level that move around that you can, interact with and sort of change how the level setup works so that it flows differently as you play through it. But mostly what we have right now working is sort of like, like key systems where like items that are similar to keys will spawn in different areas and you'll have to look for them, but it'll be different every time you play through it.
Yeah.
And the final goal was to have this end room as like a control room that would have kind of a combination of all previously done puzzles. So that way it would give the player that like they've done this before, they kind of know what they're doing, and they can use everything that they've learned so far.
Intention to accumulate it all as knowledge.
Cool.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so I know you mentioned one of your members was like the head of all the playtesting you did. Can you tell me a little bit about your playtesting methodology?
When it came to playtesting, there was a lot of stuff that we were trying to glean specifically from the data. For example, we have this one mechanic in the game, which is the journal pages. The full-fledged idea of this mechanic is that they would be hidden around the map and you would need to collect them all. For the playtest, the first one was given to the player just to allow them to have it. And we wanted to make sure that was actually working and that people were finding some actual use for it. So the idea was one of the puzzles, I don't know if you've ever heard of the game Mastermind, it's like that code-based thing where you guess. So one of the puzzles is that, except it's a lever puzzle where you enter in the certain code and then you verify and it either rejects it or accepts it. So the idea was that journal page was intended to lead them to it without holding their hand by kind of guiding them through the different codes. And a majority of players who played through it were referencing it more than once. I think more than 75% of people referenced it more than once. As well as we got very few negative feedback on it. There were some people who gave us some criticisms around it, but the way they were criticizing it, we kind of felt that it seemed like they didn't quite understand what it was meant to be, in a sense. For example, some people said like, there's a list of codes, certain ones are crossed off, certain ones aren't. You're supposed to try the ones that aren't crossed off. Some people are saying like you should highlight the correct one. That's not inherently the point. All of those codes could theoretically work in one of these randomized builds, but you have to figure out which one it is.
Yeah, so basically outliers, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Brandon,
very few, very little negative.
Like about 99% of people would sort of understand the hints that we had inserted into the game. And then, every now and then we get one or two people who just were very thrown off by it and didn't understand. And
I think that's just inherently going to happen. Some people, their primary, gameplay style is FPS games.
Yeah.
So this kind of puzzle game isn't really their style.
Yeah. As developers, that's just kind of a thing you're going to run into now and then.
Yeah, sure. A big part of playtesting and analyzing feedback is knowing what's good feedback and bad feedback. So,
absolutely.
So what are some of the biggest things you all learned in the creation of Project Silo?
At least for me, being aspiring environment artist, I went into this project not knowing what trim sheets are. And that's a very important aspect of environment art. It's pretty much just having a bunch of different details on a single sheet that can be reused for a bunch of different models. And going into this project, that was my main goal, was to learn how to use these. It was a very steep learning curve at first, but I can comfortably say that after this project, I know how to use them, and I'm hoping to kind of implement that into my workflow going forward.
You first.
Awesome.
I can go. So I think every project I work on, so as a producer, every project I work on is a learning experience because you get to work with different people and learn different things. One of the things I took away from this project is that Working with friends can always make things a little difficult because you have to separate that work and personal connection. You have to understand that like you have to press hard deadlines and things like that. I think I could have been a little more organized in the methodology that we went about creating those deadlines, but I think the frequency of our meetings, like we're meeting twice a week most weeks, and like in person at least, and those in-person face-to-face meetings kind of helped curve that a little bit and prevent it from getting out of control. And that's why we're able to actually be successful and create something to show off in the end.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think something I learned is trying to learn a tool set while working on a project when you only have a very short amount of time to do it. It can cause a lot of roadblocks, and I also I think as a programmer, it's a good example of I learned reusing stuff you've already built before really buys you so much time. So that's always something to keep in mind.
Reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, exactly. Don't reinvent the wheel. If you've got something that works already, just pull it out of another project and use it again. Retool it. And and whenever in game development, whenever you want to get something done, multiply your time estimate by 2 and then add another half, and that's generally how long it's going to take.
Yep, absolutely. Being thrifty as a programmer, or really as anyone, is a really important skill, and the success of the project is usually decided in the planning stage at the very beginning with how much time you give. So
yeah, work smarter,
cool.
Not harder.
Yeah.
I think that's all the time we have. Thank y'all so much for talking with us about Operation Silo. Thank you, Ray, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We're gonna cut to be back in a moment. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.